617 per litre. When ex-president Goodluck Jonathan increased pump price to 87 naira per litre, Buhari led a street protest, Madi Shehu. The increment of fuel prices from 617 naira per litre by the NNPC has been the topic of discussion among Nigerians. Nigerian businessman, human rights activist, and medical practitioner Madi Shehu has reacted to the pump price increments by the Nigerian Petroleum Company. While taking to his Twitter page, he said that when President Ebele, former President Jonathan, increased the pump price to 87 naira per litre, Buhari led a protest. According to him, some people abused and called Goodluck Jonathan names when he increased the pump price to 87 naira per litre, adding that today Goodluck Jonathan is vindicated considering the increment of the pump price under the leadership of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's very crazy, from an increase to 87 naira, and then look at the present situation, 617 naira. And bear in mind that during the time of Goodluck Jonathan, people were still complaining. It's very funny. And not that Goodluck Jonathan's was smooth. We are just in a situation where we can't even hold leaders accountable anymore, because when we then look back, you see, things were like not even better. They were just unimaginably better to what we are currently facing. So, it doesn't make sense. And not that Goodluck Jonathan's regime or administration was the best, because people still complained. But then and that's the thing. So at that time, what was the difference? Because what I'm thinking is, damn, from an increase to 87 naira, it was less than 87 naira. So the production must have been very efficient to a very large extent. And production costs must have been low. So, there was also the fuel subsidy, removal of fuel subsidy that, Goodluck Jonathan did enforce as well. But looking at how things have been, you can tell that it's not necessarily the administrative problem. It's not that it's the people in office. It's the same thing, for example, with companies. When a company is changing CEOs almost every 1 year or 2 years, and the company is declining, is it really the CEOs? Well, you can't say that, because you can say you're not hiring or recruiting right, but also there's no ground foundation to how the company itself needs to be run. And so each CEO decides, and the change is so constant that enforcing the change, there's no consistency or enough consistency to see that it's efficient, so it breaks. And then when it breaks, you think something bad has happened, so you hire a new person. So I think with Nigeria, as I say all the time, it needs to be dismantled. We need to go back to the drawing board. We need to go back to planning. Whoever, as they say, look at somebody like Peter Obi and his mindset. You can tell that if he is president, right, or in a position of power, he can be able to relate with like-minded people like him, and they can literally write a plan for the country. How do we want this country to be? Because that's where the vision comes into play for a company, the vision. What are we trying to be? So when you employ a CEO, the CEO obviously knows that a business needs to make profit. The CEO knows that the business needs to scale. The CEO knows all these things. It's the same thing with these politicians. Of course, they know that people need to have jobs. Of course, they know there needs to be security. But there has to be a distinct vision that gives direction. So everybody knows where they're going. And then leadership, communication, everything is streamlined, even to the low staff, as in the chain, in the, hierarchy. So it's the same thing. Yes, you switch administrations. Leaders can come and say, oh, we want to achieve, a better economic system, wanting, better security, education, health, all these things. But at the core, it's basically feeding what people need to survive, but as a vision for the country, what can you say really unites Nigeria as a foundation and paste it as a vision, and then that in itself will influence directions. It will influence whoever is coming, because as Nigerians we know this is where we want to be. Is it ever recorded in history that the people decided that? It's always like a group of people, with power who we don't see who would decide that, and that level of control. But if thing is, because Nigerians have suffered so much, we've been beaten down, we're docile, we've entered a state of survival, hyper independence, selfishness, trust issues. When any person comes and says, I want to be president, most likely the standards that we are going to hold them to is to feed our basic needs first. And it's not our fault. Until that, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Until the physiological basic needs are sorted out, then you can start going up onto, esteem, self-actualization, all that. But if not, So instead, I know it's very hard for people that are obviously it is stability to survive, but those obviously listening, when you look at these changes, you have to look at the overall picture. More than just, it was 87 naira in Jonathan's time. Jonathan's time was still not the best. We are still far from where we should be, from the bare minimum, from the standard. So that's how we should be thinking. Put what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe.